I was like, I don't have money, I don't have time, I'm stressed. I mean, he was like, well, y'all gonna have to figure this out because this not is not legal. I mean, I was like, Your Honor, right now I'm just focused on the fact that I need some type of help. I don't apply for a job. I'm waiting to see if that was gonna come through. If it's not, I gotta go apply for me another one because I got a house note, I got a rent, I gotta pay for it. It's coming up, and I don't know how I'm gonna, end up doing all this. And so that's when he was like. So when the judge started addressing him about the lady he was with at the time, she got embarrassed and she walked out of the courtroom. And I'm like, don't get embarrassed now, baby. Go ahead and stay in. You had all that mouth before. Let's just go ahead and stay right here. So she walks out of the courtroom. And he basically told him, your first priority is your family here, and he was like, you are the disgrace to that uniform. He was like, how dare you not take care of your responsibilities? That's the first thing you should be, you should. And I'm assuming the way he was talking, he was from old school too, because, that's not what they were saying with me, as far as they're concerned. As long as I'm inside them government quarters, I'm trying to tell him, well, Your Honor, they say as long as I'm in government quarters, he ain't got to really do anything without a court order. And that's why I need you for this court order. He was like, don't worry, because by the end of the day, you won't be able to do nothing other than take care of your family and serve your country. So he ended up, because, he ended up giving him, I think with Georgia, you can go a little above based off of the judge's discretion, based off of your income. So they did take quite a bit of his money at the time because just all the deception and stuff that he was trying to do and what he tried to pull off in front of this judge or whatever. And so the judge granted us the judgment. I ended up taking that to his first sergeant in order to show them, okay, now he has to kick in with the full allotment of 966, because there was really no going through the state at that time. It was just what I had did, So he had to pay the 966 plus the $300 and something dollars, almost $400 for temporary spousal support. And I think they had ordered him to do it for a course of 5-6 years for the temporary support and the child support. And of course, he was like, I hope that's enough to help you, kind of get back on your feet and try to get the divorce done the proper way. Either one of y'all, whoever wants to do it, because we can't grant you anything because we can't. I keep saying I can't finalize this because this isn't done correctly. So I end up taking that in order, to get my support from him or whatever. And I took it to the landlord to let her see, oh, okay, I got it, and, she was really good to me or whatever. But then the harassment really kicked in with him after that point, because then it was, oh, you're still my wife and all this other stuff and I don't know what he was doing there because she was still there, I'm not your wife. You go file for your divorce and me and my kids will carry on about our little merry old way. But it had got to the point where he wasn't listening. That boy, I don't know if he was on something or if he was a habitual alcoholic at that point, but it was just constant, one vent after the other with him. So I was like, I can't keep doing this. So I ended up calling my parents and I was like, I need to move. I need to get out of here, because I don't know how this is going to end, either he gonna hurt me or I'm gonna hurt him, but one of us gonna end up in jail and one of us gonna end up in the grave because I can't keep going through this. So my parents end up coming down, helping me move. I packed up all the stuff. The day of my move, I ended up getting a phone call I had to go apologize to the lady because I told her, I ended up paying for that month. I think I paid for the next month because I was like, because when you stuck your neck out for me, I don't just want to leave you high and dry like this. But I gotta go. I have to get out of here. And she understood. The day that we were leaving, we had unpacked up all my stuff and everything. You hear me? I got the phone call from the bank and they told me I had the job. But unfortunately, I had to tell him, look, all my stuff is in the car, is in the U-Haul, and I'm on my way to North Carolina. Like, thank you, but I have to decline, you know? I think at one brief point, I almost thought about unpacking my stuff and just staying there, because I was like, maybe that was my sign to stay, you know? But I end up leaving, which started off a whole nother chain of events as well, because then his rage was what became, oh, you kidnapped my kids. No, I didn't kidnap your kids, because I had custody of my children, and as long as I notified you and told you I was moving, that's all I had to do, you know, because at that point I had learned my rights. I learned what I had to do, and I notified him. I wrote it in an email. I let him know, I called him and let him know that I was planning on moving because of everything that was going on. I notified the courts and told them that I was moving because I couldn't stay here and risk the chance of either me hurting him or him hurting me. And this was nothing more than just a piece of paper, so me and my kids was gonna go. So, so that spawned a whole nother thing of events. But when it comes down to the military, a lot of people think that when it comes down to the spouses, that you're protected. You know, you're protected as long as you're connected with your husband or your wife who is in the military. You know, well, somebody told me when I was going through, I remember I ran into this one lady, and she told me, you know, you ain't the first, because, you know, I had kind of went through depression again during all this time. And she was telling me, you know, you ain't the first, and you ain't finna be the last, you know. But I'm like, even then, well, when does the last happen? Like, when does somebody step in for the spouse, you know, that serves their country just as equally as that soldier do? They put their lives on hold. They're living in constant fear if their significant other will return or not. You know, they have to be their support system. But who be the support system to the person that's being the support system of the soldier? Well, you know, they do have different groups and stuff, because I was attached to like the ladies group or whatnot. But at the end of the day, we're just talking, you know. If nobody's reaching out to help you, if it wasn't for that sergeant that stepped in and did what he did when he really didn't have to do it. Like, I look at, we struggled. From that point on, it began a life of struggle. From that decision I made to leave, you know. A couple of years later, you know, when I was talking to my older kid's father, mom and dad, because his father was military as well, and his mom, of course, was a military spouse, and she didn't work, you know, with them or whatever. And they was telling me, you know, you had a big old lawsuit against the military, and I was like, what do you mean? And they was like, you should have filed, because you was his wife. They had put you out. I mean, y'all, and because I scammed over a whole bunch of stuff, but they was like, they had put you out. He even, they allowed him to take our kids off of TRICARE. And I'm like, that's just, to me, I just thought that was evil. You literally took your kids off of TRICARE and put somebody's kids on that wasn't even first your kids. Somebody that wasn't even first your wife, really. And my thing was, even if you wanted to take care of her kids, why not leave your kids on? You didn't have to put my older two on, because that's my responsibility. But why not keep your own kids on? I didn't even know they could do that. You know, my dad was telling me he can't do this. And I'm like, he did it. Like, I don't know what you're thinking, but he did it. And it was like, well, you gotta fight it. And I was trying, but them people was knocking me down. It was like, you're no longer his wife. And I was trying to explain to him, well, technically I am. And it was like, well, he still have a paper to show that he's not divorced. I said, well, if you read my divorce or my findings, you will see everything I'm saying in the paperwork. And I was only saying that because I was trying to keep the benefits for my kids. So at least out of all this, they could still have medical and stuff like that. he stripped it all. Matter of factly, and I think he did it because I moved to North Carolina. So, because when I moved there, I ended up getting notified. I stayed off. At first, I stayed with my parents, and I stayed with some people at the church, and we stayed before I got my first place. I ended up getting notified from the military to come in to the nearest base. They called me into the base, and they made me turn in all my IDs. Like it was my ID and my children's ID, because at that point they all had IDs, and they were saying that we had to all turn them in, because I even had an ID for my son, which was kind of strange because he was a kid. I'm like, what's he gonna do? But I guess at that point, everybody who was dependent or whatever had to have IDs. And I had to turn it in. I'm like, are you serious? He took his kids off of his benefits? Like, who does this? It's not like you're paying for it, sir. It's free with your government benefits. And so my dad was like, he can't do this. He can't do this. He might can take you off if he fight for it, if y'all not married or not. He's like, but his kids, he can't do that. I said, I don't know what they done told y'all, because he done did it. It's not what. So what am I supposed to tell him? No, you can't do that. And So when I was talking with my older two girls' dad, because he had been in the military, he was a recruiter in the military himself. And he had done served over 30-something years in the military, so he knew how that was, So he was like, no, they can't do that to you. He was like, and what you need to do is file a lawsuit against the military, because what they did was wrong. You can't script his children from their benefits. They can't put you out with an illegal. They can't even not take care of you because you're his spouse. Even to this day, if you pull my name up in their system, it always attaches me to him. Now, as if I'm his spouse, but I'm not. Because I guess technically, I guess they say I am, but I'm not. But I don't know how he was able to do this, but he was able to get me and all the kids off the benefits. So we didn't have any of that. But a lot of people think that that there is a lot of support when it comes to the military spouse, and there isn't. It's like you're putting your life on the line for your soldier, but at any given moment, if they want to dismiss you, then so does the military. And I think that's where that needs to change. There needs to be some type of laws, because there's just so much stuff that goes on behind these doors of military spouse. And who do they turn to when they can't turn to the military, because technically they're a civilian, but the military is going to always look out for the soldier before they look out for the spouse. That's just not right. Those laws needs to be changed. And instead of it going for the better, it seems like they done doubled down on some old things, and then they made things worse even currently today. Like, there's a lot of women who are military spouses that are secretly going through abuse. Who are they gonna reach out to? Like, if they're being abused by their spouse who is a soldier, and y'all are covering up stuff for them, or if they're trying to make mention or trying to talk, but they can't speak to the outside world because they got to deal with it within their unit and within the military life, then who do they turn to? I even heard a FAP woman, family advocate program, this is called Family Advocate Program, FAP, say that in order for the military to step in, typically you have to be with broken bones and bloody before they'll take you serious. Typically, they brush those things up under the rug when it comes to the spouses, and that's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. So you have people who are being secretly abused, people who are getting cheated on, who and it put a real negative stain in my mind when it comes to being with a military person. Like, I grew up military, family's military, but for a big part of my life, I said no. way. You told me you was military. Bye, bruh. I didn't even take you serious because I was not going to go back through that, you know, especially not what I had went through with this one, you know. So I had it left like a negative stain, and my friend, she was throughout my life. She used to say, "Oh, my husband got this guy he wants you to meet. I think y'all a bit, girl. I don't want that. I don't, girl. Introduce them to somebody else because it ain't even first going to happen with me, you know." And of course, because of all that stuff that I ended up having to go through, part of that rage that was in me flared up again. You know, and this time it came back with a vengeance. And y'all thought I was hard before. Man, I had turned into, like I had turned into something serious. You hear me? A force that nobody want to bother with, to lay it out to you, to be honest. And I would cut you up and cut you down as quickly as I could, you know. And I think to me that was like a defense mechanism, because, you know, there's other things that happen within this divorce that I probably share other stories with. Man, y'all, when I tell y'all some crazy stuff where this man, just to give you a sneak peek, and I'll probably talk about it just a little bit more with this dude, I ended up getting on, at the time I think it was MySpace. Well, you know how you just reaching out to people and you're just talking. Because that's like I told you, I don't believe in the whole cheating thing. So, but I was on MySpace, and I ended up during this time when I was going through, after I had found out, I made a friend online, and this particular friend was in the military, right? And I'm going to have to go into the story later, but y'all, that was something. That was something else. It was a friend that I had met online for years, from that point on up until about 2 years after, you know, I had met them, that I finally found out a lot about that person. And when I say met them, I'm talking met them online, because technically I never met them in person. It was all done online. So I think I'm gonna make a video about that, talking how you got to be careful about that as well, y'all. Ooh, Lord, you know. But in my mind, I looked at this person as a friend, but within 2 years, I looked at them as a very good friend, you know. Someone I poured my heart out to, someone who listened and offered me great advice that I thought was great advice, you know. But you got to be careful even with that, y'all. So, you know, always keep your military families in your prayers. Things need to change when it comes to the rules and regs that they do for the spouses. They don't really give them the support that they need or the help they need, and they kind of just left out there on their own to figure it out. You know, like I said, I felt like at some point I just bowed out, because I was tired. I was tired of fighting. I was tired of trying to figure it out. I never really went back to pursue properly filing for a divorce from him, because I don't believe in divorces. And he never went back to file for his initially from me, because I guess in his mind he had made up he was divorced. Which that is a story too, all in itself. But the whole purpose of this is, you know, you pray for your military family. Things need to change, and don't stay silent in those situations. You know, if you're wrong, you fight for yourself, fight for your family, fight for your kids. You know, I felt like at some point I bowed down and I bowed out, because I was just tired of fighting. You know, I had got to a point where whatever fight I thought I had left in me was gone. And so started my journey. Tamira's life journey from that point on. And y'all, that was a struggle all in itself. But thank y'all for listening. Like I said before in the first video, this is very therapeutic, and it's so much more to talk about, some things hesitant to speak on current events, but and it's only because, and not because, because it does deal with family. And even though I've talked with this family member and they said they don't mind me sharing the story and talking to people about it to help other people. It's still hard to talk about, just sometimes you think you finally made it past something. And that's why I say to people, like, just because you're healed from something don't mean that something else ain't gonna fall behind it and it's gonna trigger you and suck you right back in. And that's like one of my biggest fears. Like, it's like one of my biggest fears of being sucked back into a place that I crawled and clawed and fought my way out of. Y'all, thanks for listening.